Coming from the Caveman Studios in Buffalo, New York. Welcome to Caveman Corner with your host, Jeff.
Captain Caveman!
Thanks.
Click subscribe and the bell. Do it now!
I'm here with the one, the only Tom Kilkenny, the Caveman USA Regional Director. We'll take a few minutes and we'll actually talk about what that means and what you do. I think most fans are not going to understand how New York works and how, like, the New York State Athletic Commission doesn't actually oversee the fights in New York State, and a lot of that stuff is right up in your alley of explaining. So I'm going to turn it right over to you there, sir.
Sure. So did you want me to just jump straight on in and talk about, like, the whole, like, I guess, landscape of combative sports in New York?
Yeah, actually, I started in '95, so when I started fighting, there was nothing.
There was nothing.
And then there was commissions all around, and it was illegal here. So there'd be like commissions in Jersey and Ohio, but you go fight pro somewhere else and then go fight amateur somewhere, and like it was crazy. And then the commissions came in, and then New York legalized it, and we'll let you take over from there. Sure.
So New York is, obviously the New York State Athletic Commission is in charge of pretty much everything. Their job is to oversee and conduct the regulation of professional MMA in New York. But they also are the hierarchy to help oversee, third-party sanctioning bodies that are legally licensed to regulate pro and amateur Muay Thai, K1 kickboxing, submission-only grappling, and amateur MMA. Now, there's a whole set of rules and regulations and guidelines that every third-party athletic commission needs to follow, which is the sanctioning body. I happen to be the regional director for GAMA USA, which is the Global Association of Mixed Martial Arts. I think in New York there is there's 3 sanctioning bodies. When we first started, there was as many as 6 sanctioning bodies. But as things started to move along and rules and regulations started to get tighter, typically the only ones that were really doing things, I guess, so to speak, the spot on level of the way the New York State Athletic Commission wanted things to run. You slowly but surely saw some of the weaker links now move on and either dismember and leave, or they just simply went out of business. So I think the 3 that are in New York right now, of course, GAMA United States USA, the ISKA, and the United States Muay Thai Association. Nice.
Those are the 3 that we fought under. I don't think there's another one. Maybe there is. Who knows?
Well, they used to be, the WKA used to be in New York. They're no longer in New York. And then
that's
you
who
had,
Lace-Up used to use, right?
What was that?
That's who Lace-Up used to use, like back in the day,
yes.
Right?
Yes. And then you had AKBF that was also here. And I'm trying to, and then, you know what? There was another New Way. New Way was another one that was predominantly there in central New York.
Yeah. That's who the Bomb Squad guys used that a couple times, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. I'm learning a little history lesson too. Like I'm kind of in the game and kind of not really. I was with Don Lilly when they were like trying to set it up originally. So like I know some of the story and I know the legal battles, but it's always cool to hear from like commissioners and the people that are actually doing it.
Don's a great guy.
Yeah, he's with the New York State Athletic Commission now too. Do you think there's ever going to be a time where New York State's going to push you guys out and take over? Or New York State seems to like to collect all that money.
So here's the thing. It's so much. Like right now, I think the New York State Athletic Commission, they even have such a difficult time getting enough what we would call inspectors to show up to events. Now, because Don Lilly lives right there in the Buffalo area, it's perfect for him to be there for a K4 fighting. Yeah. Paul O'Brien is in there in central New York, so they try to get Paul O'Brien out to some of those, events in Middle New York. We had Paul O'Brien when I do the Art of Combat in Elmira or Binghamton. And then the Capital Region, they used to have a gentleman, Anthony, there, but Anthony is no longer employed by the New York State Athletic Commission. And then, of course, I believe it or not, in New York and Long Island, there's actually only 2 inspectors. There's Steve Rogan, and there's a guy, I believe his name is George.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I would find it very difficult for them to be able to, not unless they recruited all the third-party sanctioning bodies, licensed officials to come on board with the New York State Athletic Commission to work with them. I don't think that they have, with the amount of shows that go on in New York, I just don't think that right now they have the manpower to do something like that.
Right, and then for the fans, I know that like a promotion gets to pick what commission they use, but like how does that go around? How do you like get hooked up with promotions, and how does all that work?
So, it's I've never solicited any promotion. Any of the promotions that I work with, you could actually ask them, did you reach out to Kilkenny or Gamma USA, or did they reach out to you? I very rarely reach out to any promotion. Promotions are always welcome to reach out to me, even if they're thinking about, changing up the sanctioning body that they're using. I honestly feel very blessed with the promotions that I do work with, because a lot of the promotions, we do everything by the book. We try to keep things.
Some people don't like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of merit to that statement. And therefore, that is why they make vanilla and chocolate. Some people have a choice. And I'm just really happy with the promotions that I work with. They understand what combative sports is about. They understand the rules and regulations. They're not willing to bend the rules to make a quick buck. And I thoroughly enjoy. I mean, we work together on one show that we both watched from its infancy, and that's K4 Fighting up in Buffalo. And Keith Ferrant is probably one of the most honest men that I know. He's a former pro fighter. I remember doing show. I don't need to tell you, the history here. We've had 12 fights on a card in the beginning, and it knocked down to 7 fights. And it was simply because somebody forgot something. And Keith didn't even bat an eye. He was like, hey, listen, they don't have the paperwork that's needed. It is what it is. Most promotions would be like, oh, my God, please let it go. Oh, my God, my event. And I know to this day, there is still a ton of promotions that actually run like that. Justin Manning just entered the building.
Yeah.
Raymond, I want to hear some Guardian Angel stories.
We'll get to that, right? We got to get through the business stuff first.
Yeah. So, I know there still are a few promotions that, they heavily rely on, some of the gray areas. The promotions that I work with, again, somebody like Keith Ferrant over in Buffalo, it's a blessing. And now to see his shows, when I tell him, Keith, like, what does a card look like? Now he's like, Tom, we're at like 17, we're at 18 fights, or we're at 19 fights. And another thing I love about Keith's show is that 9.5 out of 10 times, there is never a mismatch. And if there is a mismatch, it's because they're debut fighters. Nobody knows what that fighter is going to look like. They could look like all-stars inside the gym, and they get inside the cage and they're like, Dorothy, we're not in Kansas anymore. Like, whoa.
Yeah. It's easy to get lost in the lights that first fight too, even if you're good. Like, what's going on? Why are fight Paul? Oh, geez, I don't think I like this.
Absolutely. So again, working with such organizations like the Warriors Cup, which is probably the United States' most premier Muay Thai promotion. They put on pro-am shows all the time. They do the Road to One and WBC titles, and AFL, Amateur Fight League, which is an all Muay Thai show, which is sort of like a, like an amateur, novice up to that mid-range before they go into the bigger promotions. And then, of course, you have RFC and the K Series, which we're doing this Friday, which has 20 fights, Pro-Am fights. And then when I venture up into Barry, Vermont, Barry Vermont's an animal. Barry Vermont's an animal all to itself. Rex is really starting to put some things together up there, which is really nice. And, they're actually approved to do some of the small glove Muay Thai, which has become like the new craze. And I can see why. One Championship is absolutely revolutionizing, the combative sports world. And then, of course, we move into Art of Combat with Eric Gillette, who Eric always has people on Keith's show as well. And then, of course, Keith Ferrant and Peaches over there at K4 Fighting. What a team. And again, I really, to watch where Keith is started and where he is today is really, it's exciting.
It is. He's done such a good job with the organization, and I know he reached out to Gamma because of you have a good standing in the Muay Thai community, and so does Keith. So he reached out to you guys for sure, and like you're one of the best promotions for Muay Thai for sure. And then it looks like it's pretty good for MMA, except for my guy. No, I'm just kidding. With the gloves, the whole glove thing with Derek, I was just teasing.
Well, you know what, and those are all lessons that are learned, and again. Being in a regulation game, we get an opportunity. Like here, I'll give you for instance, this weekend alone, I have 20 fights at K Series Friday night down in New York City, Pro-Am show. And then I'm going to wind up going up to Barry, Vermont for another 12 fights. It's going to be 32 fights in a weekend. Is everybody perfect? No. Our referee's perfect. I'm going to honestly say Jean-Paul Zuniga, who is one of my lead officials. He's actually my right-hand man. He's my New York rep. I have Chris Romulo. I have Brandon Medina. I have Marcel Varela. And, of course, I have the founder of Gamma USA, Justin Brown, who's one of the lead regulators for One Championship. Everybody makes mistakes. Sometimes referees are out of position. Does it mean that they're bad referees? No. Listen, you know what? If you have a 95% rate, I'll roll with that all day, every day.
JP and Brendan Medina are some of the best refs in the business that I've seen. I've been to a lot of local shows, a lot of pro shows, and they're both really on top of their stuff. Medina especially, he's like, whose mouthpiece is whose when they both come out, like everything. Like he knows all the details, dude. He's the king of the mouthpieces. I'm so impressed by the refereeing. I just want to say two quick things. I want to run back to the blood test. So, these guys had their blood tested. They had the blood tested. So they changed. New York State changed it. They need the surface B antigen instead of just the Hep B test. And that's what was wrong. And a lot of commissions probably would push that by, but you guys are strict to the law, and you stood up, and we lost those fights. And not only did they know they needed it, like it was over and over again in the text and stuff that was going through. Like you guys clearly stated that, and that's really on the fighters. It's really not on you guys. So I just wanted to say that again.
And I'll explain the difference between the hepatitis B antibody and the hepatitis B surface antigen. There still are a lot of state athletic commissions where the hepatitis B antibody is fine. New York had to take a very strong stand, their medical team. And an antibody, you could be a carrier. And for a lot of people that maybe enter into civil service, maybe as a police officer or a correctional officer, you actually have to go take those shots, hepatitis A, hepatitis B. So you can get a false negative off of an antibody. The surface antigen tells you, plain and simple, do you or don't you have hepatitis B? Not can you be a carrier or are you immune to it? Do you or don't you have it? And that's the most important, because if somebody catches hepatitis B, it's a game changer for somebody.
Yeah, that's great that you guys are safe. And then the Derek thing, we talked about it in nauseum in real life. Derek didn't have his rap signed. He didn't get his rap signed in the back, and he won his fight on the judge's scorecard and then was disqualified. So if you guys don't know the story, that's what I was teasing Tom about. But Man, Tom heard it from me for like days. We talked for hours and hours and hours and hours, and we both were okay with the situation in the end. But like Derek's like a close friend to me, so Tom like understood. I was a little bit more hostile than I probably should have been, but I
Yeah.
appreciate Tom's patience, and it is what
You
it
know
is.
what? Coaches are going to be emotional. I expect that. Derek actually has a killer fight coming up on the
Yeah.
27th.
Oh yeah.
Matt Valencia, I've overseen a lot of Matt Valencia's fights in New York City. That's going to be a barn burner. That's going to be a really, really good fight.
It's good because Derek's like a ghost too. I can't wait to see how they match up, man. I'm excited to see that one too. It's going to be really good. There'll be some skill shown in that fight too. I'm glad it's kickboxing too and not Thai.
Yeah, it's it's the exciting thing also is that in the very beginning, a lot of a lot of the matchups on K4 were a lot of like novice fights and newer fighters. And, slowly but surely over the course of the last year, Keith has gotten some really nice high level fighters on his card. So, when you come and you see a fight card of 16 fights, you might get 3 or 4 fights that, they're novice fights. And you're like, okay, they're fights. And then you get some fights that you take a look at and you're like, wow, all right, this is worse. This is without a doubt worth, the admission at the door for sure.
Yeah. There's been a lot of those fights in K4. That Doyle Gino fight was amazing. Oh, it was really good.
Janeo actually, he wants that. Ever since, I honestly think that Ali needed that loss. Because I will tell you, since Ali took that loss, and look, Muay Thai in the metropolitan New York area is a lot different than Muay Thai everywhere else. And since that loss, Ali has been on a tear in New York City. And he said, I want back at Sean Doyle. And I said, do you want him to come into New York City? He said, no, I am coming up to Buffalo and I want that fight. But Ali, most traditional Muay Thai coaches usually don't let their fighters go pro unless they have 20 fights underneath their belt. So I know Sean Doyle is going pro. He actually has his pro debut this 27th on the K4 fight card. And Ali's he's not going to go pro. I know that, Chris, his, from Church Street Muay Thai is not going to let him go pro. Not any.
Spinning back elbow was like pretty money. Not too long ago that he just hit Ali.
Yeah. It's, but yeah, no, there's been some really, really good fights there. Asked Tom if he likes Caldor products. Look at Benny Field. I'm going to tell you about Caldor. So, and we'll talk about Ben Field for a moment here. There's a particular gentleman that I'm very fond of, who always wore like these pastel color like shirts with the tie that matches. And I don't know if you ever remember way back when I was younger. Now I'm going to date myself. You got a little gray, so do I. It was called TSS stores, Times Square stores. And then it evolved into Caldor. I don't know if you remember Caldor.
No.
Caldor was like the original Kmart. And they used to sell the shirt and tie in a box. And you would go buy the box and you already had the shirt and tie it already matched. You didn't need to have your wife take a look at your girlfriend like, yeah, that matches. And I always said this individual looks like they buy a shirt and tie in a box from Caldor. So this one particular individual, I called him Caldor. I won't say their name. And then slowly but surely I saw Ben Field, and Ben Field would wear the plum shirt with the plum tie, or they wear the lime green shirt. And I'm like, bro, do you buy your stuff for like shirt in a box? And that's been a running joke with Ben Field for a while. Ben is he's a funny guy. He's a great guy. And, I'm really glad, of course, over the last year and a half, I've gotten an opportunity just to get to know him that much more.
Yeah, he's been pretty fun in the booth. We've been hanging out a lot more now too. We've been doing some shows together. He doesn't remember wearing lime green though.
Well, whatever kind of green you want to call it. You want to call it puke green? Call it puke green. I don't know.
Poor Ben. Ben was probably so high he didn't know what was going on. I gotta say one other thing. I apologize for posting the thing about one going out of business. I posted one clickbait link that I didn't even really read the whole thing. I was in the airport coming back from South Carolina, and you were all over me for days and days and days. I was like, man, I'm sorry, I didn't read the article so good. I just read the highlight. So one is not going out of business. I apologize for posting that.
No, I mean, listen, right here in the States alone, they book 4 dates. They're looking for 5 dates. You don't do overseas shows if you're going out of business.
Yeah, no.
I don't know if anybody has ever seen the likes of a Singapore show at Singapore Stadium. You know, Joe Rogan has it on his podcast all the time when he has Eddie Bravo or Frankie Edgar or anybody on there. They just absolutely say, like, have you ever been to a one championship in Singapore? And they're like, it dwarfs the production of any UFC event. Like, it's insane. And the one thing I could say about, one championship is that product is very important. Production is very important to them. It's not about how much money you're making. It's about the sport. It's about humility, integrity, and honesty and sportsmanship. And I think that's why, Gamma has that relationship and that partnership with One Championship, because the visions and values align with one another. And, I'm really glad that Justin Brown has brought that to the forefront. And Justin, who's the founder of Gamma USA, happens to be one of the lead regulators for One Championship, along with Olivier Coste. So
I love their cards too, and they're on YouTube, so they're easy to watch. They're kind of during the day, which kind of does suck, but you can catch.
It's Singapore. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, you can catch. I always have the fights going at work when they're on, and then I watch them later. But like I always have them playing on my computer at work. I don't really get to watch them too much, like live. But it's pretty exciting that they stream them almost right away live on YouTube. They do an awesome job of getting it out there, and the submission grappling is off the chain because they allow all the leg locks, not like you guys.
Well, that's not us. It's the New York State Athletic Commission. Don't beat up. We can put in. Has Gamma USA put in for small glove Muay Thai? Yeah, absolutely. It's already an approved piece of equipment. They're using those gloves for MMA fights. Well, what's the difference between striking somebody in MMA and striking them in Muay Thai? Honestly, most MMA fighters train in Muay Thai, and the strikes that they're using are Muay Thai strikes.
Right.
But, there are still some that, they want to wait, especially New York. They want to wait to see some of the other states, utilize the small glove for Muay Thai. And then, or as Ben Field would say, Muay Thai. I cringe. Yeah, there it is. Small glove Muay Thai. I cringe every time I hear somebody say the word Muay Thai. I just turn around. I can't, like, any credibility or credence to Muay Thai. You lose it with me. Muay Thai? Where the hell do you get Muay Thai from?
The cannabis is strong with that one, so that's probably where it comes from.
Yeah.
So now he says it on purpose. He said. So I want to get into New York City. I didn't know much about the Guardian Angels at all until you started posting. Can you tell me what that's about?
Yeah, no. Guardian Angels, the organization started way back in 1979 by the founder, who is Curtis Sliwa. Way back in the day, back on Fordham Road in the Bronx at McDonald's, Curtis was the nighttime manager, the overnight manager at McDonald's. And he had a whole bunch of guys that worked with him. And, Curtis would make his way from Canarsie, Brooklyn, on up to the Bronx. And the one thing that he always saw on the 4 line was, especially in the late 70s, early 80s, was a crime wave like you can't imagine. And that was the South Bronx. And the South Bronx back then, the Bronx was burning. It was in rough shape. It was in real rough shape. So Curtis in the beginning started what was called the Rock Brigade. And it was really just going and cleaning up the streets. He was a very ambitious young man. And then slowly but surely, he saw a lot of the muggings and everything else going on the trains. And what he decided to do is he was going to, he was going to stand up, and he was going to put together a public safety patrol team. And they were going to go out, and some people would call them vigilantes. That name has since totally diminished because, now once upon a time, the cops used to arrest us all the time. Now cops look to take pictures with us all the time.
Well, they're pretty handcuffed now. Like the cops are pretty handcuffed now. So you're probably doing the stuff that they really want to do.
Sometimes, especially nowadays, people are getting up in police officers' faces and yelling and screaming at them. And, sometimes I do find myself going and saying, hey, listen, that person has a family to go home to. They're not here to be harassed. They're here to do a job. They're public safety officers. So let them do their job. And, if you want to yell at somebody, yell at me. Just saying. We're not about physical force. However, if we need to be that, we will be that, especially protecting citizens that are out there. We are all unarmed. We get checked before we go out on patrol every single time. I can tell you straight up onto 1993. I mean, we used to do crack raids. We used to kick open doors and do crack raids when crack was the big sensation. We helped at the time Mayor Giuliani when he came into office. They used to call Times Square the Deuce, pimps and hoes. That's where you would go for your peep shows and your live, and you had all your prostitutes there. And, we actually helped Rudy Giuliani turn and it's still to this day, people say the terminology all the time, where we turn the Deuce into Disneyland. But, certain people have taken office over there over the course of the last 12 years, and things slowly have gone back down. So a lot of us that were way back there in the 80s and the 90s have now resurfaced back up to try to go out there. And it's a non-for-profit. Nobody makes any money. It's all volunteer work. For many people, Ray, I know for a fact, knows all about the Guardian Angels because he's from New York City. We're a pretty iconic figure in the New York City landscape, especially Curtis Lewa.
What does the red outfit signify? I know you guys wear like the beret hat and the red blazer. What does the color red signify?
It was a color that Curtis selected so long ago. Ray misses the all-time square. Based upon a lot of Ray's posts that I see throughout the day, I could see why the old-time square was important to Ray. The color doesn't have a tremendous amount of significance other than the very start. The red beret was something that Curtis wanted. It was a way to signify, to completely identify some of your members. Especially way back in the day, we used the beret. If we take the beret off and we wave the beret, that is a code red. That means that it doesn't matter what you're doing, drop what you're doing and go to that waving red beret. So there's some significance there. And then, of course, the crest of the Guardian Angels, which is really important. But that's the uniform. It's been there since 1979. And just like your pagans and your Hell's Angels and everything else, those are colors. And to take those colors off my back, you're going to have yourself a difficult time.
Yeah, I could tell it's a very significant thing. A lot of the pictures that you posted, you're really proud of. You guys are all wearing it, so I know it's like a traditional garb, like a gang for good. Like the police. Like the police are the blue gang.
Yep.
And
we do make citizens arrests all the time. There are takedowns that happen all the time. Just last year, myself with my team, I'm the Bronx, New York City commander. But with my team alone, we probably had like 7 or 8 takedowns last year. And takedowns are something that are never to be something to be proud of. But Ray saw Curtis back in 2004 on the subways. Curtis is on the subways. Curtis is on a
beating Ray up.
But, it's takedowns are nothing to be, proud of. However, if there's a citizen that's being assaulted or something, sometimes you need to take matters into your own hands, and you need to subdue somebody. And jiu-jitsu plays a wonderful role in doing that, because, Jeff, nobody knows more like you. You're a black belt in jiu-jitsu. It's the ultimate equalizer to subdue somebody and hold them until the proper authorities come there to do what they need to do. The unfortunate thing in this day and age now, you can absolutely assault somebody. You can go and get booked at headquarters, and within 25 minutes, you're back out on the street.
Yeah. Is that frustrating to you guys as much as the police?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it hard not to take things into your own hands even more than before?
Not necessarily. I mean, last year, I don't know if anybody reads the papers or anything. There was one EDP, emotionally disturbed person, that was actually taking their feces and was wiping it on females' faces inside the subway station. And we took that person down, and we took them in. And honestly, that's assault. I mean, that's worse than assault. I mean, you don't know what's inside the feces. And 10 minutes later, that person was back out, and sure enough, feces again. And so I took it upon myself to grab some of my, my team, Popeye and Super, and we all have code names. I'm one of the only ones that actually goes by like my name, and people are like, don't you want to have like a street name so nobody knows your real name? Who cares? Come get me. If you're going to be frightened, don't put on a beret, and don't go into, the 4 and a D line of Bronx, New York. That's probably a smart thing not to do then. But, I actually took the team, and somebody told us that he was sitting on the 2 line over near 231st Street. And we made our way over there. We saw him sitting there, and he looked, and he knew. He was like, oh, God, they're back. And he just looked at me, and he said, what, are you going to sit here all night? I said, I'm going to sit here as long as you're sitting here. I'm going to sit here as long that you do not touch another female that comes by here. And we actually met. He was there at 10:30 at night. We stayed there till about 3 o'clock in the morning, making sure that nobody got assaulted. Because at the end of the day, my son even asks me, like, Dad, you're in your 50s. Like, why are you still doing this? Like, serious. And my phrase to him is going to be the same phrase I'll have until the day I die. That could be your mother. It could be your sister. It could be your wife. And if I can be a visual deterrent for somebody that might do something, I'll do it. And if I get hurt, at least I know I've lived my life for a cause and for doing some things that are good. And I honestly, I feel wholeheartedly, my wife says it to me all the time, like, Tommy, what are you doing? Like, come on. And I just turn around and I say, this is, and she's like, I know. This is one of your purposes in life. So go do what you need to do. And that's it.
Man, your wife must be an amazing lady. She has to deal with a lot. She got to deal with all the fighting on the weekends. She's got to deal with this stuff. She's got to deal with your regular job. Man, like, you're a pretty busy guy. Ray wants to know, he wants to hear about the time the Guardian Angels took over the crack house and fighting the crackhead. I don't know if that's a story between the two of you, or if that's a famous story, or...
Well, especially in the Bronx, anybody that knows the Bronx, and listen, the Bronx has grown so much, and the Bronx is a shell of what it was back in the 70s and 80s and even early 90s. Now you go there and there's beautiful complexes and everything else. But Valentine Road in the South Bronx over near the Kingsbridge area, I don't think that'll ever change. It's like a drug den, right? Whole entire block. And way back when, we look, we had a lot of guys, let's just call it for what it was. Back then, we had street gangs like the Zulu Nation, the Black Spades, and everything else that were running the streets. And a lot of those members actually turned in their colors to become guardian angels. And, one of the things that Curtis always asked was, why? Like, why do you think, why did you want to leave and become a guardian angel? And a lot of these people said, one of the reasons why I became a black spade was because I felt like people would fear me and would not harass my family. And some of the other gangs that were rival gangs were robbing their mothers and their sisters. And so they said, you know what? We're not out trying to prevent those things from happening. We're actually out doing those things. And a lot of them became guardian angels because they wanted to protect people like their mother and their sister. And believe it or not, a lot of those people actually wound up becoming police officers and correction officers and lawyers. And it really is, it's a wonderful story how you can turn somebody from a gang into a public safety officer. I mean,
it makes a lot of sense, because usually if you're in a gang, you're looking for like brotherhood and like safety, and like that's the same thing as being a police. And if your goal is to do good things and you're just trying to protect yourself, like it makes sense. Seems like a pretty reasonable jump to me. And I mean, maybe not to everyone else, but like I understand the feelings that come with it on both sides.
So needless to say, Valentine was the home of crack raids. We knew that if crack was killing people left and right, it was an epidemic that was. I mean, it was terrible. It really was. So again, we had our recruits back then. These guys were tough as nails. We would train 3-4 times a week. And we did a lot of, back then, Go Jew was very, very big with people like Ron Van Cleef and, Richie Barathy and Ron Van Cleef. I don't know if you saw The Last Dragon. Did all the choreography. And, but, needless to say, we trained a lot. And a lot of these guys, they walked around with the pants tucked into the white socks with the Chinese slippers. Everybody thought like they were like Bruce Lee, and we would just go. It was fun. Back then, we didn't get harassed a lot. We would kick down doors. We'd make citizens arrests. We'd take the zip ties. We'd zip tie them up. We'd take their crack. We'd flush it down the toilet. We'd watch people cry. We'd watch people have fits. Those were the days. Those are definitely the days.
Was that like the 90s, like the crack epidemic?
Those are early
80s, early 90s?
I would say probably like 87, 88, 89. I'll be honest with you. Sometimes I sit here and I say, Jeff, like, I can't even believe I'm still sitting here. Between riding my motorcycle and doing some of the things I've done, I'm not going with, I'm still here, Jeff.
That's crazy. You're closer to now than you are to the 80s. Like, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
That was so long ago. And you really don't look that old. So that's
thank you.
What made you like, it seems like such a crazy thing to do so late into your life. I know you're out there helping people, but man, like how do you balance all that? Like, I know it's easy to lose yourself and doing things like that. How do you make time for your family and not lose yourself?
Well, both of my kids are older now. Both of my kids were big into the combative sports with me. My son is still probably one of my most senior judges. He's done fights. He's judged some of the best Thai fights in the world. He used to travel. He was the one that used to take the trips into Buffalo with me and Elmira, and a couple of times when we went up to Watertown. Oof.
I remember that story.
Oh boy. And some of those shows, my son used to go with me. So, I spend a lot of time, but my kids are older, they're living their lives. My wife is a typical Sicilian wife. She loves being at home. She loves cooking. She loves caring for the family. And, And I try to balance it out carefully. Like, if I'm going out on a Saturday patrol, I'll certainly do that, but I'll make sure I get back in enough time that I'm having, dinner with the family and maybe doing a movie night or something. And then, of course, Sunday is, especially if it's football. Unfortunately for us Jet fans, we're not like Buffalo fans. Buffalo fans usually go into the playoffs. We do not. Yes, we do not. So we'll have our wings and we'll sit and we'll watch games throughout the day, which is really fun. And even at some point in time, Jeff, I'm sure you saw my wife a few times. She would make trips with me too, and come out to some of the fight shows. So I've incorporated that a lot into family time. And those are some times that I just absolutely will not, I won't forget, and I won't give up for anything. And my team at Gamma USA is my second family. I'll go to battle with those guys any day out of the week. I have I don't care. I'll just come out. I think I have some of the best officials on the East Coast, bar none.
I agree with you too. Like, I'm so impressed by the guys that come to the K4 shows. Like, I wouldn't like blow smoke up your ass. Like, if I didn't think they were good, I'd be like, yeah, you guys are whatever. But I wouldn't give them compliments. You know what I mean? Like, you still come to the show that I call, so I wouldn't like throw them under the bus. But man, like JP, they're just so good. They see everything that's going on, man, and like the fights that get stopped. It's not not your guys. It's the medical staff that comes in and stops the fights medically. So
that's
I know you guys get a lot of shit for that, but that's not on you guys. You guys just call it.
That's something that's something that we need to work on. Because I know the last fight show, one of the fights didn't necessarily need to be stopped. You have what's called a 5-minute injury. And if that person can recover with, and especially if it's a non-intentional foul, they have 5 minutes to recover and you should give it. But sometimes certain medical staff feel like they could come in and they could just make a decision. And sure enough, 90 seconds later, the person's standing up like, what the heck is going on? Like, why did they call the fight? Yeah. So again, medical staff always is the end all be all. So the second they wave it off, somebody's like, oh, don't let them wave it off. I'm like, there's nothing I can like if they're waving it off, it's off. But, again, one of the fights, last time around, I felt like the person maybe didn't want to fight. And that fight got called, and rightfully so. But the other one, I felt like if they could have gotten that injury time out of 5 minutes, I think without a doubt in my mind, that person would have absolutely recovered and the fight would have continued. But doctor called the fight.
One of the two that we talked about, I watched over and over and over again because I was like, man, that didn't hit him in the groin. So I watched it over and over again. And the shot where he went down didn't hit him in the groin. Earlier on, there was an exchange where it's hard to tell if it went in between his legs, like 2 knees before that. And he might have got hit there. And so I take back what I said about that one. The one that he went down on was a clean knee. It didn't hit him in the groin at all. But I watched it back too. And I was like, oh man, of course it didn't hit him. Like I knew it didn't hit him. And then because I it's hard for me because I watch it on a monitor, I watch up, and the monitor's got a little delay. So when I look down up, I'm behind a second. So I miss stuff sometimes. But when I went back and I rewatched the replay, it looked like he got struck when they were like turning in the clinch. So
and you know what? It's when they're really close like that. It's really hard, not unless the referee has an absolute clean shot, and you will, especially somebody like JP. JP will step right in. He's like, no, keep fighting. And they're like, what? Like what? Like keep fighting. And there was no groin shot there. And again, that one was a really close one. But when the reaction of the fighter is as such, which you saw, it's like, what do you do? It was close enough. And then the reaction was a reaction that in my 13 years of regulation, I've never seen that reaction.
Yeah, we talked about that quite a bit when we talked. We actually been talking on the phone a lot more since I called you, and then you were so cool about it. So, and then you called me about the one stuff.
Well, Keenan Hines just said JP always pushes the pace.
Yeah.
It's the thing is, especially when you're fighting a Muay Thai or a K1 fight, nobody wants to. And even if you watch some of the one championship Muay Thai fights, you'll always see Olivier or Justin or Ricky just consistently turn around, and you'll see him even when the fight, and you're like, whoa, what was that about? It's because there's no action. And you have to put action, especially a K1 fight. I mean, a K1 fight is really maximum output.
Mm-hmm.
So you just sitting there and circling with somebody. MMA, I can understand. There's a strategy behind all of that, the takedown and everything else. But Muay Thai and K1, fight. So
pushing the rounds are so short too. It's only 2 minutes. 3 minutes for pros. Like even a 3-minute round seems like so short when you fight MMA. Like. You only got like 9 minutes sometimes or 15. You gotta make it count.
You got to give the judges something to score.
Mm-hmm. And then I got to ask you about the other fight because, it was after the bell is a legal strike to the head. I didn't even catch it at first. I thought it was a legal strike to the groin at first because I went from monitor to the top and then back down to the monitor, and I just saw the strike kind of start to land on the monitor. But you said that it was in action, and so it didn't really matter that it was a legal strike. Can you break that one down for me a little bit?
So what winds up happening there is there's the terminology intent. Okay. Intent is a very black and white word. And the second you question somebody's intent, you question somebody's character. So you have to really have a very careful balance when doing that. So when a strike is in motion and the bell rings, now this person, the first shot hit him in the midsection and it got him good. And they were going down. And the other one was already in motion and the bell rang as it was already in motion. It was an unintentional foul. And because it was an unintentional foul, the only way that I can disqualify that fighter is if I said this person intentionally tried to hurt this person. I would never want to judge one's character, especially that's me playing God or the jury and the executioner. And I certainly do not want to do that unless it is blatant in my face. That person definitely intended to hit this person with an illegal strike. So if you watch that over and over again, you will see that the strike did land shortly after the bell, very, very shortly after the bell. And there was no intent for that person to put harm or strike them illegally in any way, shape, or form. So if I were to disqualify that person for, an illegal strike foul, at that point, I'm putting somebody's character into question. And at that point, the best thing to do is it was unintentional. I asked the referee, do you feel it was intentional? He said, absolutely not. And I said, then by all means, I said, we have to call it a no contest due to an accidental foul. And that's the right call to make.
Yeah, both the guys wanted to run it back when I talked to them in the cage. So hopefully we get to see that one again too. That started out really good, man. It was fast and furious for the 2 minutes and however many seconds it went before 3 full minutes, right? It was K1, but it was a championship fight. So was it 2 or I don't remember. Is it?
Why it was a championship fight? So it's 5 2-minute rounds.
Yeah, so it's 5 2s. Okay. Why? Can you ever make it 3 in the amateurs, or does it always have to be 2?
No, in the amateurs, it's always 2. The athletic commission won't allow 3 minutes.
Yeah.
MMA, yes, 3 3-minute rounds.
Yeah.
You can't have 5 3-minute rounds. They're like, what about a title fight? Like, no.
Yeah. That stinks too. It's so short for guys that are close to pro. That's such a short amount of time. 3 3 seems like a lot, but it's really not when you're pretty high level.
I've actually been hearing a lot of complaints on the larger scales, like your UFCs, your PFLs, and Bellators, because a lot of their fights are now 3-round fights. Mm-hmm. They've scaled down to 5-round fights so much that it's actually a bonus when you get him on a fight card.
Yeah.
So, and listen, I'll do a Warriors Cup or like a K series this week, and there are 7 title fights. There are 7 5-round fights.
It's a long night.
Yeah, it's a long night, but you know what? When the fights are good, it's a long night. And here's now another thing that I'll say that I love about my Gamma USA officials. These guys know what they're doing. They're on their game. They facilitate things, and they flow very, very nicely. You as a commentator, I'm sure, can appreciate the flow of a fight. And the second somebody gets out of the cage, you probably know within the next 3 minutes, the next fight is being announced into the cage.
It actually makes our job very easy too, because we don't have to fill time. So it's very good. I worked at a lot of shows, and you guys really run them out pretty quick. I'm going to say it's because it's a great runner, though.
You know what? Here's the one thing I'm going to say that maybe many people don't know. Jeff has a son. His name is Forrest, and one of the most detailed runners I have ever seen. He lays it out to a T. This is what we're going to do. This is where we're going to come. From there, you're going to follow me to here. Once we get here, you're going to go this. And I'm listening to all of this. And this was the first time he was actually a runner.
Yeah.
I had to go up to you and I had to tell you. I said, your son is lights out. And I told Keith, I said, hey, is there any chance you can get Forrest to run again? And he was like, I can ask. And when he was there, I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Great kid.
Too. Yeah, I used to do a podcast with him. We're going to try and get him back on. We used to do a father-son podcast once a week, too. It was really, really fun when he was, really young. He makes me look so dumb. He's so smart. I appreciate him a lot. It's great to hear good things about him. I had to make sure that I got him a shout-out in here, too. So I do appreciate you guys getting it running fast, too. And it works so good. We got such with Jay, too. We just go, and then we're already going into the fights, and he's announcing them, and it's so quick. It runs really, really smooth, even though I talk a lot in the cage.
But the only thing that does is it prolongs a little bit, but you know what? It also adds to it. I mean, Jeff, I mean, you've built yourself a personality, especially in the upstate region. Everybody knows Caveman. Everybody adores you. You're a great guy. So a lot of people want to hear, what you have to say, and it gives a fighter a little bit of a platform at the end to enjoy their victory. Sometimes when you have 16, 17, 18 fights, you're like, Jeff, cut it down to a minute. Let's go. Because when it's 3-4 minutes, guess what? If you're doing 3-4 minutes, 16 fights, well, guess what? You just added another whole hour to the show.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of these guys, man, so I always think about the fighters, and the two things I try and give them. I try and give them a platform to talk before they fight, and then an opportunity to talk on a mic in front of their friends and family.
They put there's a blood, sweat, and tears that go into all this.
Yeah, and sometimes we might never win again. Sometimes it might be the only win you get, especially some of those guys. I try and get in there for some of the guys I know are not too good, and then they win. I even though sometimes the fight's not even really that great, but they're never gonna get another opportunity probably to talk in front of the crowd, and I want them to get that moment. Yeah.
We've all fought before. We know what it's like, and especially when you can collect that victory, savor the moment. I totally get it, and I applaud what you guys do. I think it's fantastic. And again, I don't just say Keith at K4, and it's the whole team. It's the commentary. It's the guys that run the the video, and then now he's hired Justin Manning on to be the full-time announcer there. And I work with Justin Manning all the time. What a
great
professional. Such a professional. I love him. I love his family. He's a great family person. So when Keith was saying I need a more permanent guy, I said, look, if you can get Justin Manning lives in the Upper East Side of New York. I said, if you can get him from Manhattan to Buffalo, I said, there's no two ways in my mind. No questions asked. You guys will get along like two peas in a pod. And sure enough, the two of them hit it off. And I think that he's a very polished individual, and I think that K4 Fighting is lucky to have him, and he is lucky to work with K4 Fighting, which I think is awesome.
He has a crowd going so good before the fights. He got him ramped up. He brings his own little mic cover too. I think that's so cool. Like he covers all the little details. He's a very excellent guy, and just like you guys, you cover all the details too. And
Okay.
man, January 27th, we'll be seeing you up here in Buffalo. Are you doing a double header again? Are you working on Friday and coming
No,
on Saturday?
thank God, no. And Keith told me, he was like, this one is a big card.
Yeah.
So, we're excited for that. I'm up in Barry, Vermont on Saturday. And in January, February, actually December, January, and February, I get deathly frightened going up to Buffalo or Vermont, because you never know when a foot of snow is just going to be dumped.
Yep. You never know. And we had that problem last time. A couple shows ago. It snowed real bad for the weigh-ins, and like people missed the weigh-ins. It was bad.
I finally told both Keith and Rex. I said, yeah, we're going to have to rent a Ram 1500 to get the crew in, because we can't get stuck. And one nice thing is, like, people like Keith and Rex that do shows far away. They'll even put fighters up the night of weigh-ins the night before weigh-ins, to make sure that they're ready for weigh-ins and everything else. And what do you do if the sanctioning body's not there to conduct the weigh-ins?
So if there's a snow event or something, and you can't make the weigh-ins, do you just do the weigh-ins the next day? Like, how does that work?
Well, the one nice thing is I ran a course up there in Buffalo with Tyler and Janie and Dominic and a few other individuals up there, and showed them how to inspect, how to conduct the weigh-ins. And a matter of fact, the very last weigh-in, Tyler and Janie conducted those weigh-ins, which was fantastic. They did a great job. They've actually watched me. Tyler's watched me do weigh-ins prior, so they're very familiar with that. So we have our sort of own little built-in team up there in Buffalo now, that if something like that does happen, Tyler, Janie, or even Dominic are equipped to be able to conduct those weigh-ins. And even if I can't make it, it's the love. You could always FaceTime somebody and go from there.
Perfect. All right, man. I think that's all I got for you. You got anything else you want to drop while I got you here?
You know what? Just for me, I'm excited for January. This Friday we have the K Series in New York City at Melrose Ballroom, which is probably one of the more premier K1 fight shows in at least on the East Coast. And then I'm up in Barry, Vermont. We have a nice pro fight, Keegan Hornstra versus John Pina from New York City. Little small glove Muay Thai, which is always fun. Yeah. And then January 27th, always excited to go on up to Buffalo and really see Keith and his family, which I almost consider like second family now. That's really exciting. And then February 9th, Warriors Cup. I'm completely blessed to work with all of the promotions that I do work with. People, again, always ask me, like, hey, do you solicit? I don't solicit anybody. And the ones that I work with, again, I thoroughly enjoy. And I'll always want to give a shout out, because there are some people that will throw accolades my way all the time. And I'll say it till the end of time. I am absolutely nothing. I am nothing without my team. I'm nothing without the leadership of Diana Thomas and Justin Brown. I'm nothing without my referees like Justin Brown, John Paul Zuniga, Chris Romulo, Marcel Varela, and a whole host of others, Zach Borner, Brandon Medina, of course, and all of my judges that work, Jonelli Rodriguez and Carl Medina. I could just go on and on and on with all the people. My son, Lorenzo Kilkenny, they just work so tirelessly to give the fighters what they deserve. And I am absolutely nothing without them. They make me look fantastic.
That's what we're trying to do here on Caveman's Corner. We're trying to give the fighters what they deserve too, and that's what we try and do. Like, so any sponsorship that you guys hook us up with, we're trying give it back to the fighters. So with that being said, thank you JCR Transport. Thank you K4. We appreciate you guys. January 27th is going to be the K4 card. It's at Buffalo Riverworks. Tickets are on sale now. You can click online and make sure you buy them. If you put the fighter's name in, they get credit for the tickets. So if you're a fan of the fighter, make sure that you put their last name in, K4 in their last name, and they'll get credit for the ticket sales. If you're just a fan of the show, like, go check out the show. If you're not a fan of the show, I would highly recommend going to check out K4. I see people all the time, and they're like, "Hey, you're the K4 guy. I don't even really like fighting, but I know who you are, and they're gonna go to the next show. So make sure you guys check out the show. It's a really fun time. We'll be there January 27th. Me and Ray will be there. Benfield will probably be there if he can get his way in there, and Tom Kilkenny will definitely be there overseeing everything. And that's all I got. And I got one more thing for everybody. 9 p.m. tonight, I should be having Pat Mix on, maybe a few minutes late because he's getting done training, but should have Patchy Mix on tonight too.
Hey, listen, it's a world champion right there. Rock and roll, baby.
That's it. All right. With that, we're out of here, guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your time.